Hey guys, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. The next Star Trek short treks will be coming out in a few days now, and I'll be reviewing that for sure, but in the meantime, I thought, why not do a bit of a Star Trek Races? As you guys know, I'm currently working on my Borg video, and I will get that out before Picard premieres, but they are such an important part of Star Trek that writing that video is taking a while. So today, we're going to talk about a race that will be featured in the upcoming season of Discovery instead. A race that's interesting, but won't take 18 million years to explain. The Trill, or the Trills. Both are apparently accepted, but I mean the Trill seems more natural to me. Alright, so the Trill. They are a very peculiar species, and the reason I say that is because even if we don't know that much about their society in general, the one thing we have learned about them is pretty damn strange. For most of their life, a small part of their population lives with another being inside of them. But more on that later. First introduced in the Next Generation, members of the Trill species originally looked like this. Humanoid, very similar to humans or Vulcans, but with a classic Next Generation Alien of the Week forehead design. And that's how they remained until Deep Space Nine began. To be honest, remained is a big word considering no Trill was featured on screen after this one until Deep Space Nine arrived. But my point is, in classic Star Trek tradition, the design changed when the new show came around. And this time, the reason is pretty simple. The producers felt they had invested time and effort in finding a pretty young woman for the role of Dax, and after seeing the makeup test with the original Trill forehead, they felt like the makeup was hiding her beauty. It was, to them, a waste, so to speak, and so a new design was imagined, something less imposing. The spots. And from then on, every other Trill ever featured on screen has had those spots running down the side of their head, neck, and body. We're talking the Next Generation movies, Voyager, Discovery, and now even the short treks. As it stands, the change in design has never been addressed on screen, though many agree one does not necessarily contradict the other. We could simply be talking about different ethnicities. Terry Farrell herself once proposed that the spotted members of the species were from the north of the Trill homeworld, whereas the forehead members were from the planet's south. Maybe we'll one day get an on-screen explanation. Who knows? I personally like the idea of north and south, and I would especially love to see a mix between both. Anyway, the Trill homeworld is a place called Trill. Just like Earth, it has a lot of oceans and landmass, and judging by the various Trill pigmentations that we've seen over the years, Trill must have some sort of hotter or colder regions. The planet also has some very important caves that we will talk about in just a minute. As I said before, we don't know that much about their society, when exactly they became warp capable, what kind of art they enjoy, when Trill itself joined the Federation, but what we do know is their governing body is called the Trillian Government, and the Trill Science Ministry is one of the best science institutes in all of the Federation, rivaling even the Vulcan Science Academy. And the Trill seem to do a lot of work concerning wormholes. Maybe that's just a speciality of theirs. I mean, at one point, a few Trill scientists went to Deep Space Nine to conduct experiments on the creation of artificial wormholes, and then the Trill Science Ministry itself later found a way to collapse the Bajoran wormhole without harming the beings living inside. Pretty complex stuff. Technology-wise, all I can really show you is these two ships. Not very impressive, I know. I guess it's worth noting both designs are triangular, which indicates some sort of common design philosophy. Maybe if we see another Trill ship someday on screen, it'll also be triangular or triangular-ish. I mean, maybe. But not all Earth ships are the same shape, so... Anyway, that's about it. Generally speaking, the Trill don't come across as an aggressive or war-driven race. They seem rather motivated by, scientific discovery. And if we are to base ourselves on the members that we've seen of the species on screen, they don't seem to believe in any kind of divinity. We haven't heard about any widespread faith of theirs like with the Bajorans. And there's never any recurring mention of food or beverage or anything else that relates to them directly, of their creation. Kind of like how we have Romulan ale, etc. So, I guess they actually seem kind of bland. I mean, except for that one thing that I mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about now. On Trill, there are underground caves, some known as the Caves of Makala, in which there are naturally created pools of an opaque, whitish liquid. These pools and caves are all interconnected, they go on for kilometers, and they are home to a strange yet sentient species, what the Trill called Trill Symbionts. And this is where things get really weird. The Trill Symbionts are slug-like beings, vermiform life forms, that can only really live inside these pools or inside a Trill host. So on Trill, it would seem that two completely biologically different sentient species evolved alongside each other, and after many, many years, they developed some kind of symbiotic relationship. When inside the pools, it's pretty straightforward. The symbionts can all communicate with each other via electrical pulses, and that's pretty much all they can do, that and just move around. The pools themselves need to have a certain temperature and protein content, which surely occurs naturally for the most part, but in order to keep things as regulated as possible, certain Trill are assigned as guardians. When joined with a Trill host, however, the symbiont becomes much more than a slug in a puddle. The host and the symbiont become as one, sharing emotions, experiences, thoughts, memories, preferences, everything that makes a person a person. Now, the Trill lifespan is never really addressed, though it seems to be similar to humans, but the symbionts, however, can easily live over 500 years old. That means the symbionts outlive the hosts by a lot. And so when the Trill host dies, the symbiont needs to be transferred into a new host as quickly as possible. This is because once the symbiont is removed from the pools in the caves, it cannot go back in, and it always needs a host to survive. This whole thing isn't taken lightly by the Trill people, by the way. The operation, the joining procedure, takes quite a while. It's actually pretty complex. And I think that the joining itself takes about 93 hours to be done. Once it's done, however, and the symbiont is securely placed and integrated into the host's abdomen, both beings become connected in a way that is very difficult to sever, or basically impossible to sever. Hosts are chosen by the Symbiosis Commission. The Commission basically takes care of every matter symbiont related pre- and post-joining. I could go into the politics of all of this, but it's really a bore, so I'll limit myself to this. Very few Trill are selected to become hosts. This is because symbionts keep with them all their memories of the past lives as they transfer into the new host, thus granting the young Trill lives worth of experience, but also an overwhelming amount of information. One needs to be prepared for such a fundamental change. Over the years, we've seen various stories tackle the intricacies and details of the joining, be it physical or psychological, and by the time Deep Space Nine reached the end of its run, the whole Trill host symbiont thing was common knowledge. The very first Trill we saw in The Next Generation, however, back in the 2360s, was the first time the Federation had ever heard of symbionts. Star Trek Discovery Season 3 seems to be taking us back to Trill and back to some symbiont caves. Maybe we'll be learning even more about both species and their relationship. Remember though, Discovery Season 3 does take place over 900 years after the first two seasons, so there shouldn't be any inconsistency. Okay, there you go. That's the Trill. There are bland people with a strange secret. I'm so mean. I'm sorry. Anyway, what do you guys think about them? Do you like them? Do you not? Are you freaked out by the worms some of them have in their abdomen? Are you happy to know we might learn more about them? Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. I know this video was a little short, but I mean, there's not that much to say about them. And I did want to talk about them at least a little bit before Discovery came out. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a little something. It's always great fun making these. The Short Treks Episode 7 review and Easter eggs video is coming soon as soon as the episode itself is actually released. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends. Go support the channel on Patreon. Be like the people on screen. It's already had impact because I'm able to film using a tripod now. I'm no longer propping up my phone with shoeboxes and candles. I feel like a professional. That's it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but truly it is life-changing. Alright. Thank you again, guys. And live long and prosper.